Hello there everybody, Mr. Warwell here and welcome willingly back to the Whaleway. Today I'm looking at some rolling stock from Accurascale. We live in a world where the price of model railway flatbed style wagons is absolutely ridiculous. The Hornby Laureate Y now costs £54.99 at the full price, and Rapido's new Lomac is very expensive too. So it's almost quite easy to believe that these models need to be that expensive. But once again, to disprove that, we have Accurascale coming to the rescue with this, the Warwell wagon, which costs £25. Yep, that's right, £25 is the full price for this. And this is a much larger wagon. I guarantee it's heavier than the others I've mentioned too, plus it's got twice as many wheels. All of that for 25 quid. Now you'll notice from the box here that this has the Hattons branding on it, and this is the ex-Hattons Warwell wagon. And in fact, when Hattons first released this a handful of years ago, it was more expensive at £33. And to be fair, it is expected that a new release of a model should be cheaper than the initial run. And that's because obviously the second time around the development and tooling costs have already been covered, so it should be cheaper to produce, but still we almost never see second runs of a model cheaper than the first. I mean, most of the time they go up in price significantly. Hornby. But yeah, in this day and age, £25 for this seems really, really impressive. So I'm not too sure how much of a hand Accurascale had in these models. Obviously with the ex-Hattons Class 66, Accurascale modified it significantly. I don't know that that's happened here or not. That's kind of what I'm going to find out today. But either way, I thought it'd be nice to take a look at the new run of Warwells, see what these are like. Unfortunately, these have all sold out now as far as I can tell, but hopefully that means that this run was a success and that we'll see more in the future, so fingers crossed that's the case. But for now, let's take a look at this, let's see what this is like. And would you believe that it's been almost 5 years since I reviewed the 00 scale Hattons Warwell? Just where has that time gone? So yeah, it's been a long time since I looked at one of these, but I do remember that they were incredibly high quality and well built. So hopefully these will be as well. Right, I'll show you the end of the box and brace yourselves because there's a lot to take in here. So this is H4-WW-023. Here we go, it's the 50-ton KWA Warwell military flat wagon with Gloucester GPS bogies in mod 2000s green with yellow ends modified MODA 95535. Goodness gracious me, so hopefully that means something to somebody because it doesn't mean a lot to me. But I do know that there's a Warwell in here and my job is to get it out and look at it, and that I can handle. So let's open this up and let's take a look. I can see what looks like an accessories bag in here. I said accessories strangely there, but I meant accessories, not accessories or whatever I said. Okay. Yes, interesting packaging this. Obviously most wagons are packaged sideways on, but with this one you're looking down on it, which obviously confuses a simple mind like mine. But accessories then. So we've got one NEM pocket and one NEM coupling. That's interesting. Do we not have NEMs fitted to this then? Or if not, why is there only one? That's weird. And then we've got couplings in here, screw link style couplings, which are not the movable ones, unfortunately. And then we've also got pipes and such, which have been painted too, actually. So that's strange. I don't remember the coupling situation on the old set of Warwells. So let's take a look at this. And yeah, sure enough, how strange. There is only one coupling fitted on one end, and the other end has it in the accessories bag. That's very strange, but there isn't anything else fitted to that end by the looks of it. What? Why have they done that? Anyway, here it is. Whoa, heavy, heavy model this. Alright, so yes, the Warwell, and sure enough, this thing is almost entirely made out of metal. This sort of top cover, if you like, that is plastic, but the whole underside of it is just solid, sturdy metal, which makes this thing deceptively heavy because obviously it's not got a big body or anything. You wouldn't think this would weigh much at all, but it really does, and I'll weigh this for you in just a second. But yeah, an amazingly detailed model for £25. Again, lots of wheels, lots of weight to it, so much print work. We'll go into all of this in just a second. But yeah, for the money, absolutely astonishing. So a little bit of background on the Warwells in real life, and then we'll take a much closer look. The Warwell wagons were built for the transportation of tanks during World War II. Introduced in 1942, they were necessary because existing rolling stock was not sufficiently large as to accommodate the tanks. Following the end of the war, though, they were maintained and reused for other purposes. The military continued to use the Warwells too for the transportation of various equipment. Over time, they have been modified to meet more modern standards, but the essential design does remain the same. So here it is, up close and personal for you, the Accurascale X Hatton's Warwell wagon. And this is absolutely astonishing. I think even irrespective of the price, this is a superb piece of rolling stock. But when you consider that it only cost 25 quid, I just don't know how they did that. The weight is crazy as well. It weighs in at 100 grams, which is 43 grams more than the far more expensive Hornby Laureate Y, and it's actually 4 times the weight of the Rapido Laureate Y, which also cost about £10 more than the Warwell did. Now, admittedly, the Laureate Y is a pretty obscure piece of rolling stock which possibly has limited appeal, so maybe that's why it's more expensive than it should be, and that's fair enough. Perhaps the new Lomac will be much better, but honestly, that's got a long way to go if it's going to beat this on value, because this Warwell has a lot of detail, complexity and features for what it cost. So let's talk about the decoration first of all. The finish is just great. Even on the plastic section on the top, we've got a really good metallic satin finish to it, which matches the sort of metallic satin finish of the actual metal parts. And speaking of the actual metal section, look at all the decoration on here. So many different prints. And we've also got separately fitted plates as well. So these are separately fitted with printing on them. And there's loads of them, 1, 2, 4 per side. Absolutely amazing. There's detail picked out on the ends as well. We've got the yellow on the buffer beams here, and look at the complexity of the buffer beams as well. We've got these, are these like sort of springs underneath the buffers there? Not too sure, but very, very detailed. Metal buffers as well, which are sprung. Look at that. Yeah, a very beautifully presented model. The bogies look great as well. We've got separately fitted detail on the bogies, loads of print work as well. Maybe the odd bit of paint out of place as you can see here, but generally the paintwork has been applied with some real precision. I have now fitted the missing coupling. Really strange about how one of the couplings was included in the accessories bag. I can only guess that perhaps this Warwell in real life maybe ran on its own and it wasn't supposed to couple up to anything at one end. Perhaps it belonged at the back of a train or something, I don't know, but I'd rather have a coupling on both ends, and of course one was provided. The underframe is also crazily detailed as well. We've got the wood panel effect, which looks really impressive. We've got all of the sort of framework with all the riveting on it as well. Plus we've got the brake rigging, which is all separately fitted and fully realised. Really, really impressive. So it's a model that is fully detailed on every single side, which is awesome. The moulding, even in the die-cast sections, is just tremendous. So when people say, oh well, die-cast bodies on locomotives and such, they don't look as good as moulded plastic, they're softer. Well, look at this. I can't really fault this, can you? Nothing wrong with that at all. In terms of the detailing on top of the Warwell, we've got the wooden texture on the top here, which looks good. The little securing rings here, these are not separately fitted parts on this model. I believe on the Oxford Warwell, perhaps they were separate. On these they're not though, they're just moulded, but they're well moulded as you can see. And the detail up on the top of the well looks to be well done too. We've got more riveting going on here. Yeah, it's a really, really impressive model. For 25 quid, you absolutely cannot go wrong, and it's no surprise at all that these sold out as quickly as they did. And the fact that it's got features such as sprung buffers is just unbelievable to me for that money. So yeah, once again, Accurascale and Hatton's, I suppose, with the help of Hatton's, totally showing up certain other manufacturers in terms of what's possible for this amount of money. But anyway, that is the level of detail. We now need to get this down onto the track to see how this performs. Hopefully this one will be fine as well, but let's see. Let's get started. So here's what I've set up to test the new Warwell. I've picked the little Sentinel 060 as the loco, just to imagine that it's maybe shunting the Warwells around for some reason. And then I've put all the other 00 Warwells that I've got out on the track with it, as you can see. Although I do think today's Warwell has the best of the liveries. Yeah, I do love the yellow buffer beams. Anyway, I'll test the couplings in just a second. First, let's talk about how free rolling this is, and the answer is it's kind of middle of the road. It did sort of build up some speed and get off on its way down Gordon's Hill, but it stopped at about the signal box. And while that's not terrible, obviously we have seen lots of rolling stock do better than that. So yeah, while it's not dreadfully stiff or anything, I have seen more free rolling stock. But let's see if the couplings are going to work right. Let's back up. Here we go. That's the Hatton's Warwell coupling to the Accurascale one, although I don't think there's much difference between them really. And then let's back up. There we go. All the couplings work. Yeah, they have all coupled. In fact, the old Hatton's Warwell, the coupling hook there is lolled to the side a little bit too much, and that was a thing with some of the Hatton's couplings. I've not noticed that happen with the new Warwell couplings though. They seem to be a bit better. But anyway, yeah, did couple successfully, as you can see. There we go. So let's send them off around the track. Just make sure everything's fine and as it should be. And it's just occurred to me that this is a very heavy train actually. What with the Warwells weighing 100 grams each for the little shunter here. I suppose the Oxford one's much lighter, but still we've got over 300 grams of Warwell here. But it's doing it fine, no issue with the couplings or anything over the curves, everything stayed on the track. Yeah, that looks absolutely perfect, doesn't it? And I do love the way Warwells look running along empty. I mean, with a load of tanks and other equipment on board, I think that would look great as well, but just seeing a shunter hauling them along, maybe taking them to a place where they'll be loaded, I don't know, that just kind of gets the imagination going a bit, doesn't it? But yeah, great looking models, massively detailed, loads of features, and decent performance as well, which is really, really good to see. Okay, let's try this over the points. So this should be pretty interesting, because when I did this test on the original Hatton's Warwells, I don't know if you remember, but they kind of derailed and were not happy at all. They won't do it now because I've figured out what was wrong and fixed them. They were a bit out of gauge. I might have made some other modifications too, but either way, very interested to see whether the Accurascale one will derail like the Hatton's ones did before I modified them. So let's see. There's the Oxford Rail one. There's the Hatton's one that I fixed. The new release staying on. I don't know whether that's because anything's changed or whether that one just happens to be okay, but no issues whatsoever. So that's better than the original Hatton's ones were. Look at that, forwards direction, yep, no issues. So passed with flying colours on the points test. Okay, some ratings then. Well, the level of detail really can't be anything other than 5-star. The price point of £25 set pretty low expectations for this model, and those expectations were smashed to pieces. So we've got loads of separately fitted parts, all the little plates which have been decorated and separately fitted. We've got sprung buffers which are made of metal, full underframe detail and brake rigging and such, looks absolutely amazing. Decoration top notch, we've got a great finish to it as well, and plenty of accessories to fit in the accessories bag if you want to. Performance I've given a very good score, but not quite perfect, at 4.5. Now, all the derailment issues that I experienced with the Hatton's Warwells have gone. This one ran perfectly, but there are more free rolling wagons out there. Now, it does seem very harsh to knock it down on score for the free rolling here, but I often hold manufacturers to a very high standard in my reviews, and so I've got to do the same here and knock it off a little bit. Similarly, I've been very harsh on the quality by only giving it 4.5 star, and the quality is amazing. Quality of the paintwork, marvellous. So much metal on board to the point where this weighs 100 grams. Absolutely crazy, but I did spot a little bit of paint out of place on one of the axle boxes. Very nitpicky, but I think once again, if I find an issue, I need to reflect it in the scores. But yeah, overall, quality very good indeed. Value for money then, well this was £33 when first released under Hatton's, it's now cheaper by £8, now costing only £25 from Accurascale. Well, if I could give it 6 star I would. What an amazing value model this is. Don't really think I need to explain the value any further than that, but you get a lot for your money, that's for sure. So overall then, that is 9.66 out of 10, and honestly, I think that's a pretty harsh score, to be fair. I think I have been harsh on it, and yet it's still one of the best scores that I've given in rolling stock this year. That's a grade of A, quite obviously, well deserved. Let's see if it's top. Into the logbook we go. Yep, it is, yeah. Top place, number 1, above the Derek Carr. So unfortunately these are sold out, like I say. Hopefully Accurascale will bring these back one day, because affordable rolling stock is not something that you see too often these days. Well folks, that will just about do it for my review of the Accurascale Hatton's Warwell, whatever you want to call it. Well, obviously there's a lot of detailed variations in these Warwells, so the one I've reviewed today is not quite like the ones I reviewed from Hatton's. Today's is a later variation of the Warwell with modifications, as the box said, so I couldn't do a kind of apples to apples comparison, so whether anything's been changed by Accurascale, I don't know. I don't think so though. Maybe there's some slight quality improvements in the way it's been assembled and whatnot, but apart from that, yeah, I didn't really notice any difference, except of course for the fact that it ran over the points without derailing, and it's now much, much cheaper. So yeah, really enjoyed this. Please do comment down below and let me know what you think about this. Perhaps you picked up a different version. What was that like? How did it compare to mine? Do let me know. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you again very, very soon for another review. All right, cheers folks, you take care.